Don't change that.
Hello and welcome to our podcast number this one. Today we are watching the naked man behind Jake, and we have some other things to do also. But for now, if you're listening to the audio version, come back onto our YouTube channel. Oh, Jake, can you please explain the naked man and your background?
Hold on. I'm going to adjust my viewpoint here.
Well, let's not get rid of him.
Oh,
he was the highlight of the show.
He was.
All right. All better.
Well, we are waiting to hear why there was a naked man behind you.
I have no idea.
Are you at home?
Yeah. It's like the seven wonders of the world, that kind of thing. Like it just exists.
Well, was that just your roommate, or are you at a Russian bathhouse?
No, but that would be. It's actually something we need to do, don't we? A banya.
We do. I heard there's
not a banya.
There's a true Russian bathhouse somewhere in Denver, but I think it's sketchy as fuck. Like,
I feel like it's in like the warehouse district. It's got to be over there somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the one, but I'm pretty sure one of them got in trouble for like a prostitution ring.
Oh, perfect.
So it's not exactly what we want. I'm more thinking this is a reference. I'm really fucking reaching right now, but the movie Rounders, it was a poker movie. It was from, I don't know, the 90s or maybe early 2000s. I do too. But there's a scene in the movie when he goes to see the Russian and he's at this bathhouse. That's what I would imagine it being, but it's not. So
yeah,
hanging around. I need to play some poker. All right. Shall we jump into today's topic?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. We feel that it's necessary to do a podcast on this, though pretty glad we dodged a bullet here. So I'm going to explain the situation, and then we're going to dive into it. So this is about the Bedlam currently in the CrossFit community. Late last week, there was an email exchange between an affiliate owner and Greg Glassman, and he was a bit terse, and that's usual for Greg Glassman. He's kind of a dick. This particular gym owner then created a blog post trying to show how much of a dick Greg is, but everybody's like, yeah, it's par for the course. Then he goes on Twitter and responds to a public health handle that he was following, and essentially the public health handle he did not have a lot of respect for because they did a pretty bad job, in his opinion, predicting the COVID-19 models. And then he made a tweet in reference to the George Floyd thing and tying it back to their models, and everybody lost their mind. They thought it was racist, and they thought he was way out of line, et cetera, et cetera. The tweet itself was Floyd-19. So you can see how somebody might take that the wrong way. He then, not only did he make a follow-up to that, essentially apologizing, but he even, word on the street is, hired a PR company to help him manage this damage. By 24 hours later, some of the biggest names in CrossFit were de-affiliating left and right. And I know this is going to be a dig, and I don't care how this is going to come off, but in true CrossFit fashion, all the other affiliate owners just followed what the top affiliate owners were doing instead of making a decision for themselves. What did you guys think about all this stuff? Do you agree with me that people were a little bit too quick to pull the trigger? They just followed everybody else? Or are you guys like, nope, that's exactly what they should have done? And there's no right or wrong here. I'm just interested in your opinion. This is why I didn't ask you guys before doing the podcast.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. I referenced this earlier in the week with the video I did do. But at the same time, I think I'm not defending what he did. I don't necessarily think what he did was right, but it's just poorly timed. Like, it was just one of the stupidest things you could do, especially with everything that's going on right now. So not smart on his part to do that at all. And what made it even worse, I think, is that after the fact, after he did hire some PR people to work with him, especially with everything that's going on right now, the apology didn't seem necessarily genuine. It just seemed like that was what they were telling him to say so he could save his skin and the company. In terms of the affiliates, I do feel the same way about that. I do think that there were two camps. There was the one camp that immediately pulled out right away. And then there was the other camp that said, we don't condone this, or we don't agree with it, but we also want to wait and see what the next step is. And I think they were a little bit more on the smarter, a little more cautious side of it. And I think that now, especially with the CEO change, so this is why I'm not like really into CrossFit anymore, but like with the CEO change, like I think it's a better change from what they did have, but it's just essentially a move to put out the fire a little bit, get those who did not de-affiliate to actually stay so they don't lose everybody. It was poorly timed. Like, the whole situation is just stupid to me. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's poorly timed. I'm kind of the person that really looks into more than surface area type things. So for me, we don't know what the context of the message was to begin with. Not to say that it was appropriate to do. It was poorly timed, especially in this kind of climate. Everybody's quite hostile. Feelings are quite high, especially, with the riot and looting. George Floyd is a huge, pivotal point of what's going on right now. And I think if time were to pass, and maybe we were to maybe understand where that was coming from, the whole contextual part of it and what he meant by it, rather than jumping down his throat, creating, live conversation, understanding where he's coming from, and then, really talking that out and finding an understanding on why that was bad, rather than condemning somebody so quickly. That's the problem we have with our society these days, is we don't talk. One, we don't have a conversation. We don't know how to extract knowledge from people when we take stuff out of context. So maybe this was our time to, create change and understanding with somebody instead of demonizing them so quickly. So that was my issue with it. I'm not condoning it whatsoever. I think it was poorly timed. I think it also was taken out of context. We don't completely understand the full story of it. And if we were to take time and maybe, create some knowledge behind it, create a learning objective out of it rather than condemning somebody, I think that's the worst thing that we do in our society, is we jump to conclusions so quickly and we don't really understand people for their full context. So that was my issue with it. I understand why people are so up in arms about it. But then again, we also de-affiliated before all this happened. So I can say it really doesn't affect us too much in that realm. But yeah, this was a poorly timed thing. I don't think it should have happened, but on the same hand, we squashed something that we could have, created a learning lesson out of.
I think on that note too, Josh, I think God, I just had a thought here. Hold on. Where was it? All right, come back to me. I'll come back.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, it's we could have created really an understanding, created a learning objective out of it rather than demonizing them, and then moved on efficiently. As far as the CEO change, that's a surface area thing too, because yeah, we have a new face as Dave Castro as the CEO of CrossFit, but Greg Glassman still owns the company. He still has 100% hold on it. It's a private company. So to believe that, this is going to change anything, you're just changing the face and putting a Band-Aid on it. And, I love Dave Castro. He's a Navy SEAL. I respect the man. I think he's, brought a lot to the sport or the community of CrossFit in and of itself as far as HQ goes. But to me, this is just a mass change, and nothing's really changed because, Greg Glassman's still the CEO. He still has 100% control of the company. And just because you're the CEO doesn't really mean a whole lot to me.
I had a weird thought when all this happened too. Not to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything. Of course, it's going to make me sound like one. But when Glassman did make the changeover last year to switch to like more CrossFit Health, so it's focused more on an older population, like we went through that when we were trying to rebrand and everything. But when he did that, remember how he removed all the games athletes off of the website? Like it was essentially just replaced with old people on the that weird set they had with the old couch or something. So the thought that I did have is that, you know, it's obviously we don't have all the information and the context is missing, but what if it happened because Greg really doesn't want CrossFit to be identified with the CrossFit Games, and as a result of him making that statement and everything's coming together, Reebok pulled out as a sponsor, Rogue won't put CrossFit on their title for the Invitational coming up this weekend. He's, in a sense, kind of done what he wanted to anyway. He basically just pushed out all of the bigger games athletes to not be associated with CrossFit, which is kind of interesting.
That's pretty interesting. I've always thought that, like, the whole way that everything he does is extremely calculated, but I didn't get the feeling with that on this one because it seemed like it all happened so quickly that he didn't know what was going on, where some other moves he's made all along, I've commended him for it just because I think he's made some pretty intelligent moves along the way to grow the brand. But I don't know. This doesn't reek like conspiracy to me, but it could be. I don't know. I was actually surprised at the mixed emotions that I had with it because you'd think I just wouldn't care because we're out of it.
Yeah, we don't
have an affiliate or a location, so we're not even part of it anyway. But actually, what annoyed me most is one of the reasons that we did rebrand away from CrossFit is we didn't agree with the methodology, but it wasn't because I hated Greg Glassman or anything. I actually think Greg Glassman is responsible for revolutionizing the fitness industry. And a lot of these people that are denouncing him and hating him would be nowhere without what he created. And so it was just crazy to me that all these people are going to say basically F you, Greg Glassman, when they've made millions of dollars because of him primarily. Reebok
wouldn't be around if it wasn't for him, you know?
Rogue Fitness was born at the CrossFit Games. And
right.
Rogue Fitness is so far beyond CrossFit. They're not going to be hurting at all. But like, that's not even who I'm talking about. I'm talking about some of these big name gym owners that have completely built their brand, their personal brand, on the heels of CrossFit, like Invictus and New England are the first ones that come to mind. Yeah. And it's just crazy to me that they would just say F you for one, you know, and I'm not saying what he did wasn't wrong, but there are people in a similar position, like athletes, for example, that say some stuff and they don't get completely lambasted and ruined for that. They're allowed to make an apology and blah, blah, blah. They continue. He didn't get that. He wasn't offered that. And I'm not saying what he said wasn't wrong. So I don't want anybody to misconstrue this. I'm just saying in a different arena, things wouldn't have gone this way. And maybe some of these people might have shown some appreciation for where they came from. Like me personally too, I would not be here right now if not for that man. I was extremely inspired by him, especially his old videos through the mid 2000s. It just wouldn't have developed the way it had unfolded if not for him. So even though we rebranded, it wasn't because of him. It was just our idea of the methodology had shifted, and it was so far away from CrossFit that we had to rebrand because it was strength based. But it had nothing to do with how much of an asshole Greg Glassman is. So I continue to be completely annoyed by the sheep that is the CrossFit community, and they just follow what everybody else does, and they have literally no creative ability. They're just, okay, Ben Bergeron's out, I'm out. That's it. Yeah. There's no more thought to it than that.
The interesting thing is, I think what makes the situation so sticky for a lot of gyms too, especially right now that are the ones that are still affiliate owners, is the fact that, like, with everything else going on right now, I feel like a lot of people are being forced into making a statement to kind of show where they stand. Otherwise, they're going to get in trouble. They're afraid to get in trouble to kind of, you know, go their own way. So I could see that's why it's an issue for a lot of people. And then the weird thing too is that, like, when you were talking about getting ready to affiliate, we were doing the rebrand. I don't know if we could talk about this now, but like one of the issues we ran into was the identity of CrossFitter, and It's
Yes.
it's the title of oh, I do CrossFit. I am a CrossFitter. That is my identity. I have nothing else. Like that's something that's really hard for people to get over. So that's the other thing, interesting thing we're going to see too, is if people do de-affiliate, like are they going to stay with their current gym because it's not a CrossFit gym now, or do they realize that CrossFit is, or the movements or the methodology and stuff are bigger than that? And it's not necessarily, it's the same thing. So.
But they're not actually going to rebrand. They're saying they're rebranding, but all they're going to do is change the name and change the name of their classes. That's not rebranding.
Yep.
I'm doing CrossFit, but I'm calling it freaking community fitness.
Yeah.
It's just like I was in the affiliate owner group looking at all this stuff. These owners have no idea what they're getting into. I spent over 30 grand on this rebrand, and it wasn't just that. It was all the time and all the stuff that went into redefining who we are as a company. And all these people that had a knee-jerk response and just said, "Oh, I'm pulling the name CrossFit because I don't like a tweet that I didn't fully understand." It's that they're not ready to fully change their business, or maybe they are. I actually do think that some affiliate owners were a lot like we were, and they were already going to rebrand. So they're like, perfect timing. Let's pull the trigger right now. And for them, 100%, I would have done the same thing. Like, that's awesome. You couldn't have it on a silver platter better for you to do a rebrand than what he just gave you. So
yeah,
maybe Jake, you're right on that, because all the people that were going to do it anyway, Glassman was like, get out. Right. So.
Yeah. And we all have different perspectives of how all this works. My issue with the climate as is of itself, the total climate, not just this specific thing in CrossFit, is that we're so closed-minded in the way we talk to each other. If you have a conflicting argument, you're so quick to point fingers, but never understand the other side. And that's my issue with everything that's going on right now. It's that we're so simple-minded and so closed off from learning other people's points of view to make real change, that we're just so quick to just shut everything down so quickly without even taking a moment to understand where other people are coming from. So, and it's to me, this is all superficial. It's all just surface layer stuff. We're never getting to the root cause of things, and that's my issue with society right now.
No, and so on that note too, Josh, I've been having the same thought process, especially with everything else it's been going on. Like, people like to view things as really black and white, and very rarely is everything black and white. There's a lot of gray area, and you don't have to like pick one or the other. You can definitely sit on both sides of something you agree with. You don't necessarily have to be, staunchly against something or staunchly for something. It's just, it's the same thing. So this is like total tangent, like politics and stuff, but I don't ever agree with like different parties and stuff like that. I think you just kind of vote for who you think is going to do the best job.
Well, that's the issue, right? Is we pick one group or the other, but it's not like that. You're only picking one group for maybe one or two issues you agree with and you associate with that group. But realistically, we're so dynamic in the way we think and our thought patterns that it for some reason we have to pick a group. That's not how it works. Like, pick the issues that you want and then have conversation about that so we can have a full understanding of everybody's perspective. That's how people learn. We're so quick to shut down knowledge and understanding that we just become closed-minded, and no one side is better than the other. Actually, they're about equally the same. To say somebody's, wrong for what they're doing, well, take a reflection back at you and see what issues you have with yourself,
Which is why we shouldn't even have political parties, but I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole because everybody so for somebody like my dad, who is very hardcore one way, he's going to call me an idiot, and I'm so stupid because I don't understand the way the world works, because I don't believe that there should be parties because of the exact things that you guys just brought up. But let's keep it to this issue, though. We can have a political discussion, another one. I actually want to go back to what Jake said. When we were considering our rebrand and we said, does it make sense to use the name CrossFit? And we had this discussion, and it was a very long discussion with this team that you guys are listening to right now. Do our members, do they associate themselves with that term? Am I a CrossFitter? If the answer is yes, when we start doing strength-based fitness, they're not going to feel the right way. So then we knew that we had an uphill battle, because it was actually education. And it wasn't education that we're necessarily right or wrong. It was the education that this is our philosophy and our methodology, that doing it this way has more bang for your buck. And we have so many reasons for it. We lost members, I didn't just throw money at this rebrand. We lost a lot of members, and it was every excuse under the sun. But I had a very good discussion with one that we lost in particular, who had been a CrossFitter for the last 10 or 11 years. I explained to him the philosophy, and he said he didn't think that that's what he wanted to do going forward. He didn't think it was a good fit for him. And I agreed with him, and we moved him to a different gym, and that was fine. These are the hard conversations that I don't think affiliate owners are aware that they're going to have if they go this hardcore. They're going to have some balls here. If you really want to rebrand, you're going to have to stand behind what you say with real reasons for it. You can't hide behind CrossFit anymore. Now it's you. You're the head person making these claims, and you can back them with science or not. But before, you just said, well, that's what CrossFit says. That was a cop-out. You don't get a cop-out anymore. It's all on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's God, it's so funny that it just kind of like it was literally like the weirdest like 48 hours I think I've ever seen CrossFit have, and it was bananas. Like first you saw it, and then you're like, oh, there's a tweet, and you're like, oh, that doesn't look good together, and then it's like all the major CrossFitters going like I don't condone this. I'm done. I don't know what I'm going to do in the future. Like especially the people that are like really like their entire life is built around CrossFit. Like they are a competitive athlete. They have sponsorships from different fitness companies. Like, I don't know. I think like I was saying earlier, like I feel like people are in a rush to make statements or decisions so that they don't get chastised, or they're not, going to get in trouble for being late or not saying something. So I feel
it's just a state of fear.
Yeah, it is. And that's why, and then like as soon as one person does it, that's all it takes. Then everybody else is like, well, if I'm like that person, then I have to do this too. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm not like that person, and I represent something else. Like it's just kind of interesting to see that.
There's no real conversation. That's the issue. Like we're not teaching each other. We're not learning. We're not growing. It's just condemn. So
Katie found a post in response to Rogue's announcement, which was pretty hilarious. The guy basically was like, I don't care what your stance on this is. I want you to make me a barbell. Can you send me a barbell? And like that, yes, it was like funny, but it's representative of like, okay, what are these companies really doing for people? And if whether or not you align with the CEO, what about the methodology? Do you align with the methodology or not? And Katie and I have been talking about this. The owner of Lululemon is very famous for being sexist and all this stuff, and he said a lot of stuff. A lot of these same people are wearing Lulu fucking lemon. Sorry to say F word, but it's true, right? And they don't remove themselves from that brand because of what the owner and founder has said, because they like the product.
Wow. See, I didn't know about this with Lulu. I'll have to do some research on this.
He's kind of a piece of shit. But.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, he's a known like sexist and blah blah blah, and so the feminists hate him. And he makes women's clothing, and he's very successful at it.
Totally. That's crazy. Yeah, I really want to dive into this one. This one's a new one for me. So.
And I'm not saying he's right either. So don't take that. I'm just saying consumers don't necessarily care about the values and beliefs of the founder, who may or may not be part of the process of giving them the end product.
Right. Well, it's the same thing with Home Depot. There was a lot of issue with the old owner at one point in time in his Trump association. But then if you research it and you understand that he no longer owns Home Depot, he's actually not affiliated. And the new CEO of that has said that we've denounced this man and his verbiage towards Trump. So now if you research that, there's actually nothing wrong with Home Depot anymore once you get into the thick of it. like that's the whole thing. This is all surface area stuff. Like we have to go deeper into what we're actually purchasing, what you want to be a part of, what are your ideals, sort of thing, and how they line up. But people just look at surface stuff. They never go deep enough, and that's the lesson. And then in this is we never go deep enough in conversation to understand what's truly going on.
So in terms of the new, so Josh, you had a good point earlier. Like like I've heard that too, where even though he did transition to the CEO role, he still owns 100% of the company, so he's going to make everything. So that's the other thing that people are calling for. Like if they believe that he made or he did something wrong, taken out of context, they're calling for him to basically sell the company or the majority of his shares, so he can't make any money on it. But
that's not going to happen.
No, it's definitely not going to. He's not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I think.
Well, why would you say that anyway? Like it's just an ignorant statement.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're not going to call for the owner of a multi-million-dollar company to just excuse himself. But if they're willing to buy it, then fine, right? Like, yeah. But they're not, because they probably work at Home Depot and
yeah.
Not saying that there's anything wrong with that. That's a very good job to have, I've heard. But they're probably not making CEO level decisions of a multi-million-dollar company if they're going to make claims like that.
The interesting thing about Castro being put into the CEO role is, I think, with basically, how powerful nostalgia is, and like how huge of a thing that can be for people. Like with the way that the CrossFit Games and everything were set up last year and the schedule and how that changed and how you barely saw Castro. And then prior to that, it was like he was the star of the show. He'd walk out and he'd go, 13.2 is.
Yeah.
And he'd wait for like 5 minutes and then he'd reveal it. Like people miss that shit. So I think that's why he was chosen for that role, because I think they're trying to keep the people that really identify with that side of CrossFit, and they're trying to pull them back in so they don't de-affiliate. I don't know, man. I'm really glad I'm not a part of it anymore. I think like in terms of governing bodies that are doing some pretty good stuff right now, I think USA Weightlifting has their shit together. But I'm a little biased. So I don't know. I'm really not a part of it.
That seems like an oxymoron. USA Weightlifting having their shit together, because generally they do not.
They have it.
Yeah, it's a weird time we're living in, right? So
it is.
The fact that we still have these issues boggles my mind. So
same here, but
yeah, totally. But we do. So here we are. But hey, luckily we dodged that bullet. But I didn't expect to have any response from this. I literally was like, when I first thought, I was like, who gives a shit? This is what's happening now. But I was actually pretty pissed off, because it just brought back a lot of the same. This is why I don't like there's so many positives about the CrossFit community, but this is the other side of it that I really don't like. And then back to your point, Jake, about Castro's announcements and stuff. It's like, people just want to feel nostalgic about that. That's not the future, and it's like, if you want to get with the future, get with another grassroots movement and enjoy the process.
Well, it was the same thing.
It's like, remember in my day when barbells didn't spin? Well, that was awesome. And it wasn't that awesome. Like, spinning barbells are way better when you're trying to snatch or clean and jerk.
I agree.
So
it's the same thing as like, it's just weird. So it was like back to what we talked about with our rebrand. We were talking about the identity of CrossFit. Like it was when things were changing, those athletes that we did end up losing or did end up leaving couldn't see through or couldn't see past the fact that it was basically not necessarily the same, but there were principles of it that were there. And they really missed like the hard, intense workouts or being identified as a CrossFitter. And they basically looked for anything outside of where we were to give them that identity, or to kind of, scratch that itch. So it's the same thing. Like, we talked about nostalgia. It's a huge deal for people. But.
And they were probably freaking broken all the time and hurting, and they have a list of issues. And it's like, you're 45, you've never trained before, you can't do 3 strict pull-ups. Let's not push the muscle up, right? Like, let's chill.
Yeah. Let's skip everything.
this is the way we've always done things is not a good response for how to do things now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
How
So
innovation
constant evolution, constant change. So,
Yeah.
all right. We don't have to beat this dead horse, but I figured we just had to. This is our statement, by the way, since our company doesn't have to make a statement about affiliation.
Yeah.
So, though I did get, since it wasn't updated in the listing, I got a random phone call from, it was like the Yellow Pages, but somebody else. And they were like, "Are you still in this building? And are you still CrossFit?" And I was like, "None of this is up to date." It's like, but I have the same business phone number. So
yeah,
they reached me.
They found it.
They tracked me down.
Yeah.
That's true. I agree with Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elizabeth, for those of you guys listening on audio, Elizabeth says change is hard even when it's good. And it's very, very true. Most of good change, I think, is actually the hardest. Because if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth doing. So
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
We're so easy to bypass the hard parts and just go right to the way we think without actually learning anything from it. So.
And if you guys don't feel like dealing with the affiliate model anymore, email me, Ryan at elevatedkinetics.com. I have a strength-based fitness program for you that you could do at an Anytime Fitness or in your garage. Or if you have like some specific goal or something like that, we can jump on a call and talk about that. But my strength-based fitness program is completely instructor-led from start to finish, every piece, and it's only $35 a month. So email me, Brian at elevatedkinetics.com if you're sick of all the bedlam and you want some real training. If you want weightlifting specific training, Jake, how can they find you?
You guys can reach out to me via email. We have a new email now. It's valhallaweightliftingllc@gmail.com, or you guys can direct message me on Instagram at Coach Sterney or through our other Instagram account, valhallaweightlifting_. Yeah.
And so then if you're going to go to nationals and compete in that, that's what you do. What about nutrition, Josh?
Well, if you want to pair all this fitness up with good nutrition, get your energy levels up, have a good quality of life, maybe lose some weight, look better naked, you can always find me at josh@elevatedkinetics.com. We can set you up with our nutrition program, $135 a month. And we can do specific one-on-one stuff. We do weekly emails. We do accountability sessions. We get really down and deep into the weeds. If you're a little bit more experienced, we do calories and macros, and we also kind of manage that around your energy levels, pairing it with your fitness and all that stuff so you get the best results possible.
If you guys engage with our content, you listen to our stuff, we're only giving you a snippet of what we actually do. So buy our shit. All right. End of podcast. See you later.